So, welcome everyone to our inspiring and motivating IAPC&M author series, where we get to pick the brains of those amazing 3% of people only who have actually made it to the end and published their book. So, this series can be found on our blog, which complements our book review club. So, if you haven't done so already, I invite you to take a look. So maybe you are dreaming, like me still, of writing a book and it just never seems to get past the finish line. Then you are in the right place. My name is Judy Kennedy and I am your IPC&M host. And today I am delighted to welcome Marion Franklin, Master Certified Coach, Coach Training, Mentoring, and of course, author. And Marion, I believe we have reviewed your earlier well-established classic Laser Focused Coaching. And now you have a new book published. What would a wise person do? Simple ways to cultivate a fresh mindset and find inner peace. Sounds like something that I should get hold of after a day like today. So welcome, Marion.
Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for letting me do this. This is great.
Well, we're grateful, there are so many roadblocks in us actually getting this book out that I think that the more people we talk to about, okay, how, or why, and what's it done for your business, and, just the technical stuff. Me personally, it's the technical stuff which blocks me at each time, how do I publish this, and do I have enough money, and all of that. So tell me, so first of all, when did your first book come out?
My first book came out at the end of 2019.
Okay. And what was your reasoning behind? I mean, why did you want to have a book to start with?
Well, the first book was, I was filled with so much information about coaching, and I have a teaching background. And I realized that when I learned coaching, which was in the 90s, it has morphed into something that I thought was just so far from what it was supposed to be.
Oh.
And so I had all this information in my, that I teach and that I was thinking about, and how can I get that to other people so they can do a better job? Because for me, coaching is about improving the whole world. And so it was always in my head that I want coaches to do a better job and go deeper and really change the thinking versus just the shallow surface stuff. And how can I do that? And then I said, well, the best way to do it is write a book. But I don't want to write a book because if I put it all out there, nobody will be interested in working with me. But of course, it was exactly the opposite. So I did the two books very differently. So the first book, I actually had hired someone where I could talk and he could type. And that's how I got through it, because I would not have been able to sit down and just write.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, so we would get on the phone and I would pick a topic. And again, there was no order or anything because I just had all this information. So
it's like a download. You really downloaded with someone who captured everything that was in your head.
Yes. And then what was great was he would question things. So he would say, well, I can hear that you did that, but what would have you do it that way? And then I was like, oh, yeah, you need to explain that in a book.
Yes. And of course, you think, you go from your principle, everything that you know, but for somebody on the outside. So also it was at the same time, let alone it being then written, it was actually questioning, and it was almost already doing the what's in it for the others step, which some people do separately, right?
Exactly. So that's truthfully how I got through the first one. Now, the second one was a whole different story. So what would a wise person do? Actually was my newsletter that I started in 2004. And every month I would write, I'll say, a story. I always kept it to 700 words. And it was always about human behavior. Right. And I would base it on a client, on myself, on a friend, anything, anything that I read, any story that anyway. And I would write these, and the way that I learned how to start the writing, at the time, Newsweek was still coming out weekly, and I was a really big Newsweek fan. That magazine I thought was great. And what I would do is I would always look at the first sentence of the articles that attracted me. And I would see, how did they get the reader engaged so quickly?
The hook, or whatever they call it, the hook, don't they? Yeah.
Exactly. So that gave me an idea of how to start writing. And then, so I had this whole compilation. And then I kept saying, it really needs to go out to the world because there's so much good stuff here. And then I thought, well, how am I going to do that? And then finally I said, well, it's going to have to be another book. And since it was, in quotes, somewhat written, it wasn't going to be as big a task
Yeah,
as
so
the
you took
first one.
material that you already had, that you'd been creating for years as a newsletter.
Right. But the problem was that some of it was completely irrelevant for a book.
Right.
And a lot of it was written when I went back, and I kind of cringed because I didn't like the way things were phrased or something. So I actually worked with an editor and really cleaned it up. But more importantly, I changed a lot. And what I did was, some of them were overlapping. So I combined them into one, still keeping it to about 700 words, but taking the best of two
Yeah.
different ones potentially. And some I just wrote over again completely, like I really didn't like them at all. And then I had a whole bunch that never even made it into anybody seeing. So I redid those, and in the end, I have 101 little stories. Yeah, it's
I'm
really
hearing you saying lots of things. I mean, one I'm hearing you being just very clever and thinking, okay, so I've got this mission. I really, this is important for me. I see the way coaching is going. That doesn't resonate with, the true meaning to me of coaching. So I need to get this out. No idea how. And you had this super idea, I think, of asking somebody to listen, take it down, but then also be like a sparring partner. Like, this doesn't make sense. Or how did that happen? Or what happened first? And then, so for the second one, you already had all this huge amount of material, which lots of us do have.
Mhm,
Either classes, training stuff we've done, blogs that
exactly.
we do, articles that we put on our social media. There's already for lots
Mhm.
of us, and we get stopped by this huge machine, monster in front of us, and writing a book. And you just then moved forward on that. Now, first of all, the impact, because of course, if it's not flowing easily to us, as in the writing, the how, etc., your why has to be pretty powerful. So your
Yes.
first one was, your desire to make an impact on today's coaching world, but you
Mhm.
did say, I heard you say, that it had a great impact on your business.
Yes, yes, it exploded. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, there are waiting lists like crazy now for mentor groups and for my course, the laser focus coaching class.
And so why do you think that is? Because you sort of positioned yourself as an authority in the field, and because of the quality, obviously, of
I
what you were
think
sharing.
I think a lot of people just so resonated with what I was offering, especially coaches who had taken other trainings and realized, oh my gosh, I can relate to this material so much. I want more of it. I want to really be able to do this. And I think I just hit that point, where people just resonated so much with the material.
Yeah. And so how did you keep going? I mean, did you have, I'm thinking about the millions of blocks that I could mention here, from wondering, nobody's waiting to listen to a book from me. There's already
Oh,
so much.
oh yes. Oh
Blah, blah,
yes.
blah. Yes.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
Um, in the end, I said on both books, actually, if I sell, and the first one I know, I said, if I sell 1,000, I'll be happy. Now it's over 40,000.
Oh,
Um, And on the second book, I said, if I sell 500, I'll be happy. So,
Right.
I didn't get into, is this going to be a New York Times
Yes,
bestseller kind
right,
of thing?
exactly.
But rather, although truthfully, I would like Oprah to get a hold of it, or,
Well,
but
she may, she may.
you never know. But yeah, I didn't get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And, I didn't do it for the money. I didn't do it for anything but to share what I've got.
You had a message which
That
you
was,
felt you owed to yourself and to the world to get out
yeah.
there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really honestly believe that what would a wise person do is good for every person. In turn, I'm not sure about the subtitle as much as there's so much good stuff in there. There are so many nuggets of things and
I'm
ways for
intrigued.
people.
I
What's
love
that?
the title. So who's it for and what's it about then? Is it also coaching then?
No, not at all. So, well, yes and no, but more no. So it's okay. So the title came up. I learned it at the School of Practical Philosophy, which is all over the world. And now they have online classes, which is great. And so that question has always stuck with me. And then I actually used it in my own life and realized what an impact it had. So I just decided it would be a great title for a book. And but the book is specifically for human beings, anyone who deals with other people. Because and so what it is, each story is about understanding human behavior. And whether it's your own behavior and how you can make a change, or if you're a coach or a parent or HR or a manager, it doesn't matter what your life role is, a wife, a husband, or, it doesn't matter. It's a way to understand the people around you also. So it's not just about yourself,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
understanding why does that person keep doing it that way? What is it about them that has them always choosing this, or why can't they realize, and we have all those questions about other
Yeah.
people.
So these are on like on day-to-day events and things like that. So it covers, what would a wise person do with situation X, which involves maybe, I don't know, a couple fighting or
No, it's more, no, okay, hold on. This is the cover.
I'm gonna get that. Yeah.
And okay, so table of contents. I have it divided into 4 categories. And the categories are personal empowerment, perspectives for being your best, creating connections, strengthening interpersonal relations, eliminating obstacles, remove barriers that get in your way, and pearls of wisdom, valuable insights that make a difference.
Well, so
And
it's almost like a personal philosophy thing, like it's a way of
yes,
life or how, a guidebook to how to navigate life to its best.
yes, yes. And so, as an example, just in each category, so one has mirror, mirror, who do I see? And it's all about how we see ourselves reflected in other people and what we
Wow.
notice. Another one in another category is let's see, up and down relationships. So
Right.
that
So these are all
relationships,
things that we can all relate to. Okay. So I think
exactly,
first of all, the book
relationships
itself sounds
fluctuate.
absolutely fascinating. I shall scribble that on the side here that I need to get a hold of that. But so, for example, I hear you then to come back to the how to. When I hear you say that, I think structure and I think, how do you know when to stop?
Well, in this case, again, each one was about 700 words. So it
Okay.
was
So you have.
easy to make each one brief. And then I stopped when I ran out of ideas, you know.
You
I
did
felt
run out of ideas. I was going to say, yeah, because but then I was thinking, you can have a tome 2 and a tome 3 and a tome 4, as people have more and more things that they're
right.
struggling with and questioning with. Okay, now to get to the actual publication, because for me it's always the technical side, which sort of
Okay.
is my hurdle. How did you go about it? Did you use the same way with both books?
No,
Okay.
not at all. The first book, I paid a lot of money, and I had somebody who had a cover designer, had a typesetter, had an editor, and it was a very difficult process, we'll say. Yeah. And I wound up doing a lot of it myself. I wound
Okay.
up designing the cover. I wound up doing a lot myself. And even organizing it and things like that. My son helped me, who's a coach, and he helped me. For the second book, I decided I'm not going that way at all because it was such a, I want to say I wasn't thrilled with the experience.
Right.
Um, so for the second book, I simply went to somebody I knew who was a amazing editor, and I said, "Here are my stories. I know they're not written well. I know they need some work. Go." And so that's what he did. And then what I did, so he did his work, and then I put out a notice if anybody wanted to help me to kind of review it,
Yes. Yes.
and not review it for commentary. I mean, for like testimonials, not that kind of review, but review it for the content.
Yeah, as in, does it make sense?
And
Yeah.
yes, and I had two different people who volunteered, and each one came up with different things, and it was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Just absolutely brilliant, because I told them both, I want you to be really high level. Do the stories flow, and not, is the flow
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not, each story is completely in and of itself, but
Yeah.
does it make sense? Which ones should I put earlier? Which one should I put later? Um, and then, they came up with things like, you mentioned this early on, but then it came up again, and then so,
Right. The things that we don't see anymore because we've worked on it so
exactly,
much, right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say between the editor and those two people, and then the editor person had someone who could do it in the Kindle version, and I did my son helped me, and I did the cover. And yeah, and one of my mentees, a former student, she found the graphic, and then
It
we
was like
were
a communal gesture. Everybody was on board. Okay, so before I ask you, what are your three tips that you would have for an audience? If you had to just give three tips, I'm sure, I mean, you're so wise and you've done so much. I'm sure you have hundreds of tips, but let's say three for the sake of this short series. Um, what would you recommend writing a book?
only if you're doing it because you really believe you have something to say.
Right.
Now, different from a novel, of course. A
Mhm.
novel could just be you have some great ideas and think it would translate well into a book, but I'm talking more about nonfiction.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I think if you believe that you have something that you would love to share with people, and anything that you've mentioned has resonated with people, then yes, I would say write a book,
Yeah.
but you have to know it is a grueling
Yeah.
process. It is not a one, two, three, and you can't do it again because of what you anticipate down the road as a result of the book.
Yes, yes,
What
yes.
the book does, it opens doors. If people see the book and they like it, they might ask you to give a talk or something, not for money, just,
Yeah, yeah.
give a talk. So I think you have to do it from the perspective of, I want my material out there.
Right. I have a message, right? I have something that I need to share or that I want to share.
Yeah.
But without it having to be because it's got to be a bestseller because I've got to earn so much money and all that. It's more the delivery from the coaching also point of view, right? We have something of value which can be of interest, help, support, whatsoever to someone else.
Yes.
Okay, and 3 tips, if I were to ask you for 3 tips for wannabe authors who are still, on the fence.
I would say what I love to do is what I call, in coaching, I call it a data dump. In writing a book, I would call it a brain dump, I guess.
Mhm.
And I would say just write. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about the sentence structure. Don't worry about the flow. Just write.
Let it
Whatever
out.
comes
Yeah,
to you, just sit down and write. It doesn't matter. Nobody's grading it in that moment. It's not like you're handing in an essay for school. So just write. And later on, when you've written maybe a few hundred words, go back and fix it.
right.
But and don't wait till the end to go back and fix, because then it's just too overwhelming again. But after you have an idea, you want to write about dogs. I'm making it up.
Yeah. I mean,
And
this is for coaches, so I dare say most people
oh,
are
okay.
writing.
So,
It's a
but
it's a coaching
specifically
group,
for
so
coaches,
yeah,
okay. So you've tried something and it worked beautifully, and you think, oh my gosh, I could do a whole book on this. So you just start writing, and then again you stop. Once you've kind of you pick a mini topic, just a mini piece of the topic, and then you stop writing and you go back and you look at it, and then you can kind of fix it a little bit. I mean, eventually you do need a real editor, but
right.
you fix it a little bit. Oh wait, I should have said that first, and like that.
But
And
at
then
least you've got the content. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Right? You've got all the bits
exactly,
all muddled up, and
exactly like that.
okay.
Yes. And so you don't look at it as a book. You look at it as, we'll call it mini compositions, mini
Right,
essays, mini
right.
stories, whatever you want to call it, mini topics. And just focus on that one topic. And you've got already part of a chapter or maybe even a whole chapter.
Right. So if I use it as a second tip to ask you, how did you override all the gremlins in your head?
How did I do that? I think I go back to my coaching thing. It's about a vision.
Right.
If
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vision is truly compelling and you feel really drawn and pulled to do something because you know it's going to be for other people, their benefit, then it pulls you forward. And
Yeah.
then all those, well, who are you to write a book?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're not a good writer and all that crap. It just kind of falls away because no, I know I want something out there. And
Yeah.
even if it sucks in the end, I want it out there.
Yeah. And it's always the first, right? I mean, maybe afterwards you think, oh, I would have done it differently. But great, if you haven't had a first, thing, of course it's got to be good. You're not going to go through all the
Right,
financial as well of finding
right.
an editor and a publisher or self-publishing to do that. But yeah, it is taking that. This is what I stand for, and this is what I see my mission in the world, but actually daring, lie it down on paper, let's say, and
In
then
small pieces.
in little pieces. Marion, thank you very much. Any last thing you would like to say to any wannabe coach authors out there?
I would say when you feel really stuck, just take a break.
Right,
And then we have those what I call shower moments, where your brain is somewhere else and all
right.
of a sudden an idea pops up. So I've always said keep a post-it pad and pencil near the shower,
Oh,
because as
yeah,
soon as you
yeah.
come out, you want to start writing something down.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good thing to invent, wouldn't it? Something we could take in the shower where you could actually catch all your ideas and remove them afterwards as
Well, I
well.
guess you could do that kind of with like a whiteboard type of thing or
Yeah, yeah,
something. But yes, but I
yeah.
think that's really helpful because you might be stuck. And then, when you're not really focused on it, like that's how I came up with a title from something, years ago that I did. It was just, oh, wait, I've got it. And then I had to hold on to it until I came.
Yes.
But yeah, but I would say that that's really helpful.
Well, those ideas, I love them. My mind always seems to come just as I'm waking up in the morning, that half. And then I'm
Mhm.
always like, no, you don't need to get up. You'll remember this. And then by the time I am awake, I'm like, for crying out loud, what
No,
was that fabulous sentence I
no,
had?
no,
So
it
indeed,
can't.
it's
You
to
have to
literally
have
picture it.
pencil and paper
Yeah,
with you
yeah,
almost
yeah, yeah.
always.
So my
Yeah.
last question to you is there already a third book coming, or what would it take for a third book to decide to come to life?
No, absolutely, positively no. I am trying desperately to work as little as possible and get to retirement as much as I can.
Right.
Doing as little as I can now, and 2 books was already more than I ever
Isn't that already fantastic? Because you have that legacy, right? You've done it. You've got something to leave behind. So first of all, that whole you knew or reminding coaches maybe of what the original coaching idea was, and to move
thought.
away from all this shallow, quick fix sort of stuff. And then, what would a wise person do? Sounds like the sort of book they should have at school, right? It should be part of
I honestly believe, and I think for coaches particularly, it will be so helpful to not only understand, because I've always said to be a good coach, you have to be better for you have to understand yourself a lot better and go through a lot more personal growth. But also, when clients do things, you'll just know,
yeah,
oh, I know what's happening now. It
right.
just, I think this book is really going to be helpful.
And it seems that it would make for a more respectful, communicative, and maybe, peaceful world. Maybe we should send a copy to a few of our world leaders and see what they
Oh,
can
that
do
would
with
be
it.
amazing.
Thank you very much. And just we can get hold of this everywhere, sort of
Yeah,
Amazon,
well,
etc.
I know it's on Amazon, and
Okay,
I'm guessing because of that, Barnes and Noble and
right.
all the other
I
book
should go
places
looking
for
for
other
it.
countries and things like that. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Marion, thank you very much for having made your special, precious time. And also, it is earlier in the day for you out there. So, thank you very, very much. All the very best. And
Thank you.
thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, please, it's my pleasure, and I hope it helps people.
I'm sure it will. Thank you, Marion. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye bye.